Merry Christmas and welcome to episode 3 of the Dispatch podcast here on Your Experience Guide. Too jazzy?
Very jazzy.
Too jazzy. Not sure what's going on here. We thought because it's Christmas Day, we'd give you all a bit of a laugh at our expense, which, to be fair, is probably any day of the year anyway. But in episode 3, I'm Scott.
I'm Steve.
Same in every episode, really. But today, we're going to be talking about Blackpool Pleasure Beach again. But it's a good talking point.
Oh, it is indeed. Sorry if I'm blinding anybody. How orange is this?
No. I've got my own personal mascot with the fishes on here, to be honest.
So I need to compose myself. Right, so we're talking Pleasure Beach.
Yeah.
Cool, right.
I feel like we're in a Grand Theft Auto cutscene here. I'm going to send you off on a side mission in a minute. Blackpool Pleasure Beach, we're going to talk about the 10 roller coasters and, which ones would we keep and which ones would we get rid of. Not quite a Christmas Day conversation, but we were having this conversation the other day in the car, and it seems as we're still in Orlando at the time of filming. We thought, you know what, this is podcast-free episode. So, which ones would you keep? Let's start with Avalanche.
Avalanche. To be fair, I'd probably keep it because it's quite a unique... There's not many bobsled coasters out there. I do think it's the best example of a bobsled coaster going. So I prefer it to the one at Europa and Park Asterix, as there's no block breaks on the actual run once you leave that lift hill. And by the time you get to the bottom, you're proper going up the side of the track, whereas on the other ones, they don't quite get to that same pacing. So I'd probably keep Avalanche.
You've thrown me off a little bit because I was going to be like, no, get rid of it.
I've changed your mind, haven't I?
A little bit, because compared to all the other ones I've done, which I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Europa Park, Heidi Park, Park Asterix, I feel like I've done another one somewhere, and none of them are as good as Pleasure Beach is. Now, I don't think Avalanche is particularly great.
No.
But I think it's better than all the other ones I've done, without a doubt, because like you say, all the others have got like a brake run somewhere in the middle and there's just no flow to them. Whereas with Avalanche, as soon as you leave the lift hill, it's only short, but it is literally all go. And to be fair, when we had an ERT on it, we've had 2 ERTs on it back in 2014 and 2015. For some reason, we had 2, one year after the other, but they were actually a lot of fun, and in an hour people got a lot of rides on it. But my issue with Avalanche is the capacity. It's just, so I think for that reason I'm getting rid of it.
To be fair, I've never seen it on free while I've been going there, but I have seen videos of it in the late 80s where the train is still cresting the top of the lift hill and the other one's coming up. Now I can imagine that potentially causing problems with it, like shutting down on the lift hill, because it can be quite slow sometimes depending on the weather. So I imagine that's probably why it doesn't run like that. But I think that if you had an interval on it and you just consistently sent out,
I just don't think, even with 2 trains, I don't think there's any reason to stack it.
No,
it's not like it's an awkward ride to dispatch.
I don't know why it stacks so much.
There's no seat belts and it's literally just one bar. So I think maybe the issue is that it's got storage stuff on the other side of the station. I don't know. And
maybe.
But I just think that, no, I'm getting rid of it. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's got the chopping block, has it? That's one that's going.
I think in that space, because I don't feel like it's something that you could put like a massive coaster. I'd probably be looking at one of the modern Vekomas, something like Lek coaster in Legendia, and I think, all right, it's not going to break any records, it's probably not going to be getting everyone from America coming over to the UK to ride it, but it is a very, very good modern roller coaster, and something like that I think would be perfect for that space. And
also we haven't got anything like that relatively nearby, so it'd be quite a good addition. So I'd like that. Good coaster.
Moving on then to Big Dipper. You keeping it? I know it's listed, but there will be ways around it. I know everyone says because it's listed they can't do anything with it. I'm pretty sure if they really wanted to do something with it, they could go through the necessary legal requirements to do something with it. So
if you asked me maybe 10 years ago, I would have said get rid of it. But it's been running so good this past few years, I'd probably keep it now. Be such a fun coaster. I've had such a laugh on it, and the airtime I'm getting on it at the moment, I've never really had on Big Dipper before. So Yeah, I'd probably keep it, you know. And also you got the history there around the ride. It's one of the oldest rides at Pleasure Beach. Over 100 now, I believe.
Yeah, 102 next year. And also it's worth remembering it was the first roller coaster outside of America with upstop wheels as well. Purely from a nostalgic point of view, I think that they should always keep that one. But also I think that it is still a damn good coaster. What I would do is I would get Gravity Group in to do their pre-cut track. And I would literally just retrack the whole thing with Gravity Group and maybe do a little bit of their tweaks with a different profiling and make the drops a bit steeper. But in terms of the layout and the trains, they stay the same. I would just get Gravity Group into, because I think Pleasure Beach have been exceptional at looking after their wooden coasters over the last 100 years. Obviously, that's why they're still going. But I think we've reached a stage where so many people who've worked on their rides for pretty much their whole working life are retiring or have retired. And it's now been passed on to the next generation of engineers who, yes, are very good at what they do, but they've not looked after these rides for the last 30, 40 years. And I think they might just need a little bit of help along the way, because the people that have worked on them for so long have left, but the people that have left had a lot of people before them that were maintaining them, and so on and so on and so on. And I feel like they just need a bit of help from a wooden coaster manufacturer, because there's been so many cuts over the years in terms of budgeting, engineering and all that, that I feel like they just need a bit of help along the way. And I think that if they had like the Gravity Group to do what they've done to say Megaphobia or Racer or the Beast, I think that they would make it like one of the best rides in the country, because the layout's great.
Yeah, I think that having a modern manufacturer into new methods of retracking they'd be like, oh well, why are you doing it that way? This way is easier, this way is better to maintain, this way is easier, use this rather than this. It'll give you a smoother ride, because I think Pleasure Beach are still using the quite antique methods of maintaining their coasters, very hands-on, very labour heavy, whereas with Gravity Group, their methods look to be much quicker at getting installed, so that clearly whatever they do is quicker and more efficient. So it might be worth them going down that route and looking into doing a bit of retracking. Personally, with what has happened at Megaphobia, I'd be all for it. Yeah,
absolutely. I'd keep the trains though. It has to be PTC trains, 100%. Even if it's a new set, it's got to be those trains.
I do think that the cores on Big Dipper, they're actually quite long compared to most wooden coasters. I think potentially having a smaller length core might potentially offer a smoother ride, although I do quite like how when you go around that corner you can feel the car flex as you go around the corners.
Especially when you sat at the back and you can just see the ride doing all this in front of you. And
you don't get that on a coaster.
No, you don't. It's like you're facing that way, but the train in front of you is facing that way, and it's just like, yeah, this is old. But yeah, I like that, and I think that maybe the way that they would get around that is putting the the 2-row cars on. So it's rather than it being 3 per carriage, it'd be 2, but then they could maybe make it 4 carriages instead of 3. But the reason they can't put like the GCI trains or the Gravity Group trains on is because the clearance envelope is so tight that if you had open-sided trains, you'd have people losing fingers pretty much every lap. So that's why the Woodies at Pleasure Beach have got the high sides, because there is literally, the clearance envelope is not possible with any other trains basically. So I think we've established that we're keeping Big Dipper.
Big Dipper's staying.
Big Dipper is staying. Well, we're on to the big one. Don't get the table, mate. It's done nothing to you. So
table's gone.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to fall off like that because the table's gone. So on to the big one. I think we did a video about this the other week. So we both said we'd keep it, but refurb it.
I think that the control system on the big one needs an overhaul. It seems to be giving them a lot of jip these days. You go there and they just seem to have a battle every morning getting it ready. So I do think a new control system is needed. Big one in itself, I think it's fine. I think there's some retracking that could benefit in places. I generally don't know if it would be better just to get a whole new track, whether that be done by, I know Premiere have done Loch Ness recently, so potentially something like that.
I'd do that, but make tweaks to the layout without changing it massively. I mean, it's still...
A double up?
Maybe. We'd basically have Magnum. There'd be a bit more triangular air times. But I think the first drop would have to be the same.
Yeah, the first drop is just brilliant, so you couldn't change that.
I think I see a lot of comments about the big one saying that if you change the trains, it'll change everything. But I can promise you it won't, because Magnum XL 200 has the same trains, but runs a lot smoother than the big one. So the trains are not the issue with the big one, not at all. Maybe they're an issue because of how they've aged, but when you compare them to Magnum, which has the same trains and the same seats, big one is a lot rougher.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my head around it, because I know they have like, because they've got the side friction wheels on the inside, there has to be a gap, which does cause some of that bounciness on when you get that side to side play. That's pretty normal on that type of coaster. I think it does depend on how fast you're going around some of the corners, because if you're going really fast around the corner, you're going to bounce a lot more than if you're going a bit slower. So it's finding the sweet spot of where it wants to be going around that curve. But I do think that some of the curves are in need of a retrack in places.
Definitely. So retrack it. Yeah. We'll leave it at that.
We're keeping it then.
Yeah. I'm keeping it. I'm cleaning the station.
Yeah.
Blue Flyer. I'm just keeping it.
Blue Flyer. I suppose it doesn't really take up much space, does it? It seems to be a pretty solid kids coaster. Yeah. I don't see any need to.
It's a good starter coaster.
Yeah. I don't see any need for that to go. It's kind of chilling in its own little place, and it's in pretty good nick. Like when I last saw it, it's like freshly painted and looked pretty nice. So
yeah, it's all good. Grand National.
Grand National, yes, right. Shall we start?
Go for it.
I love the Grand National. It ain't going anywhere. But it needs attention.
So while we've got the gravity group over for Big Dipper,
they're going to have a look.
Can we just sort of move them onto the Grand National when they're done?
The thing is, the Grand National, like, I'm going to refer to the old trains, which I know that a lot of people will be like, well, they're 20-year-old now, but the generation of train before the current generation.
Which were like Big Dipper's current trains.
And it was manually controlled, so obviously the station team all had levers, and it was a bit like a railway.
And there was the ghost lever.
Signal box, you had the demon lever. On there, and the thing with that, how much of a throughput machine was it? It was literally walk on constantly, and it was fantastic, and it's changed since they put the new control system in, which needed to be done to be modernized. Is obviously manual control rides. It's not the way forward these days. You need to have proper control systems that are monitoring train movement, and back on the Grand National, this was done in the 30s, so the big lever was the way forward back then. I just think that the control system they've currently got really restrains how much throughput that ride can actually get, and it's often only on 2 trains now, whereas when we used to go, it was always on 4, and like I say, it was walk on.
But I'll give you an example. After the fire in 2004, I remember it obviously reopened end of 2004. But then 2005, it ran the whole season on 2 trains. Yeah. But it ran better on those 2 trains than it has at any point in the last 20 years on the new trains. Yes. Because it just was a throughput machine even on 2, but it was the manual operating system. Yeah. I wish they'd done what they did with Big Dipper with it. Yeah. Whereas they put the sensors on it and kept the trains. For me, Grand National is an interesting one, because obviously if you read anything from a UK enthusiast, they say how much they hate it, how much they want it to be removed, how much they want to be RMC'd and all that. But yesterday, obviously at the time of filming, it's November, we're in Orlando. Yesterday we were at the IAPA Expo for the first day. And I spoke to some Americans who'd recently been to Blackpool, and they went on the Grand National, and they were like, that is the best ride in the UK. And I nearly fell over, because I was like, they went a few days after we had been, and said it was the worst ride we'd ever had on it in a vlog. And it's like, we maybe go on it too often and overanalyze it, whereas when you've got people coming over and doing it once who are enthusiasts, they're going to love it. I know that the general public don't like it, and I know that they get a lot of complaints about it, but I think the general public complain about a lot of things these days. I mean, people were complaining that Nemesis is rough.
Yeah, if you're going on the Grand National for the first time, it is going to be an experience. Like that is guaranteed. So if you're coming away from the States and you go on it, that will be an experience you will remember. I don't know whether necessarily for the positive, but like they will remember it and enjoy it because of... Yeah. Now, if you said, would you like to do that coaster every day? So Would you want to experience the Grand National like on the same kind of times we do, like once every month or so to go on it? And I think that we remember the Grand National being re-rideable and being able to go around, and that's gone. I think it can be a fantastic roller coaster, but also a fantastic smoother roller coaster.
Yeah.
So I do think it needs some attention. I think it's such a great ride though. What other coaster can you go on and literally be like next to your mates and have it? I know we've got Steeplechase, but that's a little bit different. You've got the it's just so much fun. And then when whoever wins or loses at the end, it's just such a brilliant roller coaster. And obviously it's quite a rare Mobius coaster, which you don't see in many places. So I'm going to keep the Grand National. I'm just going to give it a bit of love that it deserves. I'm
keeping it. I'm not RMCing it. I'm not removing it. I'm not closing it permanently. I'm getting a gravity group in again. They're getting a big job from me from at Pleasure Beach to getting the Big Dipper job, and they're getting a Grand National job. And basically, I'm getting them to do what they did with Megaphobia, but again, for the same reasons as Big Dipper, you can't have any low-sided trains, so you've got to keep the PTC trains, which is fine. I think I'd maybe look at changing. I'd refit the station completely. The station's getting changed because it's too small. It's not accessible. We've queued for it fast pass. It's a joke. Sure.
It shouldn't really have fast pass.
No, the station's too small. It's not accessible for anybody. And I think as well, when trying to get in those trains, they're just too small. It's not an accessible station, but I think I'd look at moving it to having maybe a longer train, but with the 2 cars. Again, from PTC.
I'd probably keep the station, just open it up, because you queue up that way and then come back down again. You kind of do it. If you just remove that middle bit and then just have it open and you choose where you want to go onto an open platform, I think that'd be a lot better. And you could also move your fast pass back. That's the cheap way to sort it out.
Yes, it is. But I'll tell you what else they need to do is get the queues outside again, so that people don't just queue all the way into the pathway. Because when you used to have the railings either side, that was when you got to choose which side you were doing. Whereas now you just get people queuing out onto the path who don't know that there's a left and right station. So then if they're all queuing on the left side and you walk up the right hand side, knowing how it's meant to, you get shouted at.
Well, if you did it the other way, you'd choose literally just before you board. So you could literally decide, well, no one's waiting there, I'm just going to walk into it and go on it. Which I think a lot of people would. I don't think people are as fussy on which side they go on.
No.
Or you can stand to one side and wait to go on the side you want to go on if you wanted to. But I'd give people the choice. I do think if you're going to keep it the way it is, I would bring back them rails though, because I know what you mean. It used to be a lot more organised than it is now. So
simply put, the station would get a rework. The computer system would go. Gravity Group would retrack it. Yes, it would not be the full same experience, but I'd keep the Grand National.
Needs a new control system on that. It's never really been great since day one.
No.
So I think a new control system would see the world of it. And also, it's a shame that there's no block like before the offload platform, because there's enough space to fit a train there.
Yeah, there is.
I think that putting a block there would eliminate this issue of the stopping on a lift hill.
Because it's so down, all the way down bank from that point, it'd be fine. It'd just roll back down again. But I remember when they put that system in, and I'm not going to name the senior manager that said it, but I remember him talking to us after they put it in, and his words were, the first word started with F and ended with G, and the next word was nightmare. So, and that was about a week after they'd had it. And I think that if he was still there, he'd be saying the same thing.
It's never been right, that one. It's just so slow parking the trains as well. But it's trying to park a train on a basically uneven.
Well, because it's got that dip right in the middle, and I've seen the same issue with Stampeder though, because again of the way it's banked, it's got the same system. It takes forever to park.
Icon, right? Do you want to make a start?
We're keeping it. On to the next.
To be fair, it's so new that you'd have to be pretty crazy to remove it. However, I do think it would benefit from some kind of retheme.
You do?
I do. I think that it could do with a relaunch, if you will, and just get it out there into the public domain, because I don't feel like it competed very well against Wicker Man.
No, it didn't.
And I don't think it got the footfall it deserves. But yeah, I'd probably just like try and paint it another colour, give it a bit of a. This is.
No, it's got to be grey.
No.
Everything's got to be grey in Pleasure Beach now.
To be fair, I do kind of wish it was a little bit brighter, but yeah.
They should have gone with the green and orange, like on the original render.
Yeah, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? But maybe they will. And then I just think that you've got to be a bit clever. Maybe do like a Nemesis Reborn with it.
Icon Reborn?
Icon Reborn, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. And it came out like, I don't know, diarrhea coloured green or something.
I don't know. But like, yeah, I just think that it didn't get the footfall it deserves because it is a really good roller coaster.
It is a very good roller coaster. Oh, and get rid of Enzo.
Yeah. Maybe that's how you market it.
I'll be honest. Right. I'm sorry, Keith. Enzo is the best way to experience Icon, but it's also a nightmare because it causes no end of trouble in the station.
Yeah.
And it's caused no end of operational issues from what I can see from an outsider, a guest. It's a pain in the arse. I'd get rid of it.
Yeah.
Infusion.
Infusion, I'll be honest, it's got to be due like retracking in the next few years as well. So I think I wouldn't invest in it. I'd probably take it out and maybe I have said I like the layout of Infusion. I think it's a really fun layout. It looks really good, but gosh, it rides.
Just get rid of it. I'm not even beating around the bush for this one. Just get rid of it. It's had its day.
What would you like to see in its place?
There's something modern that can go in that space.
I'm surprised Vekoma haven't like used that layout, but with the modern systems, because I think it would actually be really good.
I mean, I don't know if it would fit in that space because obviously where the log flume used to go, they've put a car park and a hotel. But if they could somehow shoehorn what they've done at Emerald Park into that space with the new standard suspended looping coaster, I think it's STC now, is it, or whatever they're called?
Something like that.
Yeah, standard. No, it's just whatever. Yeah. The next generation Vekoma looping roller coaster and one of the Boomerang models, if they could fit into that space, which I highly doubt, but if they could, I'd be going with that, definitely. If that fails, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you get like some sort of water attraction in there, but I feel like relying on Valhalla as the only water attraction it gives you an all or nothing situation because I personally don't want to get as wet as Valhalla gets me. Whereas the other alternative is a kid's log flume in Nickelodeon Land, which has a queue back to basically Blackpool Tower in the summer. So I feel like they need a water ride alternative. Maybe they could get one of those Intamin ones with the moving like the Energylandia, where the lift hill is basically not there, but they have. I'm trying to think of the name. It's called Speed at Energylandia. Yeah. And I know that this is a Mac, but obviously you've got Cobra's Curse, which you've got the platform that goes up to the top. Yeah. Basically, Intamin offer that log flume technology where you could basically go up and it's like maybe even one of the launch log flumes. I know that they're trying to develop that a little bit, and I feel like replacing Infusion with a water attraction would just work for that space.
Yeah, it does seem like Intamin are trying to get more of a water coaster vibe with their log flumes, and I think that would be great for Pleasure Beach. Yeah. And particularly one that doesn't get you absolutely soaked.
Agreed.
We recently did River Adventure at Islands of Adventure, and that's a ride where you get a tiny bit wet but not soaked, so you kind of walk away from it. You drive within a few minutes because it's Florida, but like even in the UK, you wouldn't necessarily mind getting that wet.
I was thinking about this before though, and I was thinking in the UK, our water rides are kind of all or nothing. You either get like a Valhalla soaking or nothing, and I feel like because the country is taking out so many log flumes, you don't have that in-between ride anymore. No. So I'd go with either the Intamin launch log flume or a Mack water coaster. Yeah. But I'm definitely taking Infusion out if I had the choice. Soonest opportunity. Next, Nickelodeon Streak, once known as roller coaster.
You know my opinion on this one because for many years I've been saying it's an underperformer at the park. I don't think it's the best roller coaster there. It doesn't really do anything for me particularly. It doesn't really have any airtime. It doesn't really have.
Behave.
No, I've only been on it once where it's had airtime, and that was with you. And I said I've never had a ride like that before, and it hasn't done it again since.
Behave.
Seriously, it just doesn't like me. I'll be honest. I think it's one of the weaker ones. I don't know what I'd replace it with, but if I had to lose something, I'd probably say out the Woodies.
I would agree with that. That it is probably for me. I think that I was amazed they kept it for Nickelodeon Land because I know that they were going to get rid of it. I don't know if it was budgets that caused them to keep it. Obviously, I don't think don't think that Nickelodeon Streak's listed out of the woodies.
Really? I'm surprised about that.
Yeah, I don't think that one's listed. I'll have to double check that, but I'm certain that one is the one that isn't listed. I feel like its footprint is an issue. I don't know what you put in that space that you replace it with, so I would perhaps look at putting it on 2 trains rather than replacing it. But again, you've got the issue of, because of its tight structure, you're probably going to have high-sided trains still. But I'd still look at doing it. But if they were going to put it on 2 trains, they'd have done it in 2011. Because I know that they looked at it and I know that they deemed it too expensive. So they're not going to do it now. Unless that area gets rethemed.
The control system on it as well limits it to 1 train operation as well. So it's quite a low throughput. And I have seen people getting quite annoyed that the queue just doesn't seem to move.
It just doesn't.
And it's always quite large as well. So
I think for me that's another one where you have to take fast pass off it. And then it might flow a little bit. But the way that they redesigned the station just killed it. Because in the old days, the way you go up now used to be the exit. And you used to go up, I don't know if you remember the staircase that came down off the ramp.
I know it used to be a different way out. They had like an offload and an onload. And now it just seems to be offload and onload.
And it worked a lot better. Because as people were leaving, the train rolled down and then everyone got in. Whereas now you've got to wait for everyone to get out. Then the gate opens and you've got people faffing, picking what row they're going to have. It's
Well, the first time we did it, it was just a matter of it stopped and in you got.
Yeah, literally. And then it went.
With the visual, everyone sat down, it would start to go crazy. But it was good fun.
Yeah, it's not listed.
Is it not?
I've just been told in my imaginary earpiece.
Okay. It'd be a shame to see it go.
But
I do think it is the weakest of the wooden coasters.
I agree with that. Revolution.
A fantastic arrow looping coaster, and that's the dilemma, because I will be sad to see Revolution go, because I do love Revolution, but it's one of those, like, financially it doesn't really make sense to keep pumping money into it.
I know that you will look at it and say, what do you replace it with, but that's your lift hill space for another ride. And I know that Pleasure Beach, or people at Pleasure Beach who've now gone, but some are still there that had the same mentality of, they used to say, if you can put a station somewhere, you can build a coaster. But you've got to have access points, obviously. But I think with the way that the rev goes, you could easily use that space for a lift hill or a launch, definitely. And then, see, maybe this will happen. You could use that space for a lift hill and then use the Grand Prix space for a coaster.
But you want it gone.
Yes and no. I really like arrow coasters, and I'd be sad to see it go, but I know that they've obviously had technical issues with it over the last couple of years, which I think they have fixed, because I think they did fix the motor on it so that the launches were improved. But I feel like the whole structure needs a lot of work. I'm going to say it in the nicest possible way, it does not look very good.
No, and I've been kind of beating around the bush with it, but it does need attention.
From an off-ride point of view, it does not look good.
No.
And whilst I'm not saying that there's issues with it, just the fact that there was an article about it as well, it just doesn't look great. And I think that they will need to sort that eventually. Anyway, let's move on to one of your favourites, Steeplechase.
In the bin. I was actually thinking that S&S have actually tried to revive this concept, haven't they, relatively recently? I don't think they sold any though.
Well, are you surprised?
Well, I am and I'm not, because their concept seemed quite interesting, especially on a throughput perspective. So maybe you could like reimagine it with like a new Steeplechase attraction. You're thinking, I don't want another Steeplechase. I can see it in your eyes. But like, you got to bear in mind that is the only one left still going. And I think this is another issue that Pleasure Beach have dug themselves into, is that they've got so many historic rides now and classics. It becomes hard to remove it, because if you remove Steeplechase, you're saying that's the last one of its type. You weren't expecting me to say this, were you? I've defended it. I want it gone.
I'm just kind of like this, thinking.
To be fair, I would remove it, but I'm just explaining that I can see why people would want to keep it, because it's the last one.
Indecisive Steve.
It's the last one of its type. If you get rid of that, that's
but there was only ever 2 to start with.
Exactly.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah,
they're not very good.
But yeah, I think that I would probably happily see that one go.
I have a lot of nostalgic attachment to Pleasure Beach, but when it comes to certain rides, I feel like they have to go because the park has to progress.
Yeah, and again, that's another one where the capacity is being lowered to basically be acceptable with modern standards.
Yeah.
So now it's only 2 horses out at the track at a time, I believe, which...
Well, we were watching a Pleasure Beach video the other day, and even 6 years ago, look at the difference between how many horses were on the track compared to now.
Yeah, and so the capacity's been lowered again. Now, if you're having to lower the capacity of a ride to that extent, I'd seriously be thinking, is it worth keeping this thing going or putting something new in which will offer a better experience to the guests that come? So I do agree, I think it should go. I think it's time's come to the end. Get your rides in now.
It's not going.
No, I'm joking.
I don't actually think, it's not a King of Car situation. Everyone's
well, we hope not.
Well, actually, I'm not too fussed as long as it gets replaced. I don't think any of the rides we've mentioned will go and be replaced anytime soon.
No.
I think there's a chance we might see Big Dipper and Grand National get some work. I think that they're going to put a new coaster in instead of the Grand Prix. I hope they don't put in a family coaster. I think Pleasure Beach have got a great selection of family coasters currently, and that's probably why a lot of the ones we're saying should go won't.
I think that they need to be writing off to the likes of Intamin and saying, we want an extreme coaster going in. No, seriously, because the best coasters you've got at the moment are coming out from Intamin, and I feel like we have missed the RMC trend.
Oh, yeah, we have. It's gone.
So that's been and gone, and everywhere's kind of got them, but Intamin are very much hot right now, and I think that would offer that extreme thrill that the UK is lacking at the moment. Because as soon as a thrill ride has opened, let's take Hyperia, for instance, the queues for that thing all year have been insane, haven't they?
I'm just laughing because I kind of feel like you've hinted at what you want there without realising it.
Yeah.
Where you say Intamin and hot, all you needed was a racer.
Yeah.
And there you go. I don't know if they'll build an Intamin hot racer. There was a lot of rumours about it, though.
Do you reckon? I was thinking more like... I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking, but like
you do. You were thinking something like Taron or Gotham City.
Yeah.
The issue is right. That is a great idea.
Yeah.
But they rejected that for Icon.
I know.
Because they had the option of Intamin and Vekoma as well, and it does sadden me a little bit because I really like Icon. Don't get me wrong. But when I look at Icon opened in 2018 and Tiger opened in 2019 from Intamin, and I look at both and I go, we could have had that.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of disappointing, but...
It's almost a shame you didn't hang on just a couple more years. And
I don't know, because I feel like that technology that we see with like Tiger was developed. I just feel like it was just not chosen. I don't know this for definite, but we did have an event a couple of years ago where they told us about the decisions they made. And I think that if I remember rightly, that Intamin and Vekoma were going to had ideas that required other attractions to be removed, whereas Mac didn't. And I think ultimately that was why they chose Mac. Also because they got a good working relationship and a good friendship with the family. Anyway, but I'm interested to see what they do with the Grand Prix area.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it needs to be a signature attraction, definitely. But I'd go with like somewhere in the park. I will be revisiting the bigger one plans. I know they won't, but I would certainly be revisit. And I know you can look at it and say, well, the big one always shuts in the wind, but the big one was badly designed. The big one was not designed to cope with the wind, because if it was, they would not have had a turnaround that goes upwards, going straight towards the sea. That turnaround would have gone the other way, whereas it would have got a tailwind coming round. But I think that the way it was designed with the turnaround going upwards and the ramps coming back, because the ramps are not hills, it just kills all the speed. Whereas I think if it had been designed with the wind in mind, it'd be a lot more like Magnum. And I'm not saying that because I like Magnum, I just think that Magnum was designed better because you rarely see it shut in the wind. I've been there on a very, very windy day there and it was on 3 trains. So, I'd be looking at the bigger one plans, especially with King of Car going. I know that the Saudis are taking the records, but in terms of like from a European stage, it would have massive appeal. I think Blackpool's easier to get to. So I think if they went for, even if it was the tallest coaster in Europe, I think people would be all over it.
Yeah, I think something like Red Force, but just a little bit bigger, would go down very well.
I think even if you had a foot on it.
Personally, I'd love them to do that, but also get the drop towers on the side, a bit like King Dakar had. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Anyway, should we let everyone get on with the Christmas dinner?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, order your chocolate, whatever it is you're having at this point. Or if you're going out for a takeaway. Some people go for an Indian on Christmas Day.
Really? Are you good on a Christmas Day?
Yeah.
You're just giving people an idea now. They're going to get their orders in.
I know, yeah, sorry. If you have a bad stomach tomorrow, I'm really sorry. So yeah, we're going to let everyone go and have your Christmas dinner, your Indian, your chocolate, watch some dodgy television, which you've probably just watched with us two. Go and get yourself on GTA. You might see some characters wearing this.
I know, I feel like playing Vice City now.
Yeah, literally. So we're going to end it there. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a happy new year, and we hope that you'll be joining us in 2025 for a lot of content. So many thanks for watching. See you next time.